own stuff, and we're going to do it with American working people. Now, we got to remember that, while Kamala Harris, she runs from the media and she runs from the American people, this is a person who has the audacity to stand before the American people and say that on day one, she's going to fix the very problems that Kamala Harris created. Now, Marjorie and I haven't been in politics for long enough to be this shameless. Maybe if we've been in politics for 30 years, we could stand as the sitting vice president and tell people that we're going to do something on day one. Well, Kamala Harris, you've been vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago. What the hell have you been doing with all that authority the American people gave you? Get to work and stop talking about what you're going to do. Go ahead and do it. Now, and let's just talk about the record of Kamala Harris. When she was in the United States Senate and Donald Trump was undoing the terrible NAFTA trade deal that destroyed a lot of American factories, Kamala Harris was voting and fighting to preserve NAFTA. What a disgrace. This is the person who says that if we make her president, she's going to fight for working people. But when she was in the United States Senate, she stabbed working people in the back every single day, and she's going to do it again. So what is our message to Kamala Harris and to the media that's trying to install her as the next president? Our message is, Kamala Harris, you're fired. Go back to San Francisco where you belong. Let's just count the ways in which her policies have been a failure. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, the trade deficit in this country just topped $1 trillion. That's an incomprehensible amount of money, and thanks to Kamala Harris's leadership, we're going backwards when under Donald Trump's leadership, we were going forwards. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, the average Georgia family is spending about $1,000 more per month. That is $12,000 a year to afford today what they were buying when Donald Trump was president. Think about it. That's a tax of $12,000 a year on Georgia families. And Kamala Harris brags about how she wants to raise Americans' taxes. Well, unfortunately, she's already done it, but to the tune of about $12,000. It's a disgrace. Under Kamala Harris, groceries in the state of Georgia are up 32%. That's actually worse than it is across the country, and it's pretty damn bad across the country. Home prices are up 50% under Kamala Harris's leadership. And I know the media loves to talk about family issues, and they love to attack Republicans for not being pro-family. Well, look, the best way to be pro-family is to ensure that young American families can afford to buy a house in the greatest country on earth. And when Donald Trump is president, that's exactly what we're going to fight to make possible. The American dream of homeownership. Over 9% of credit card balances turned delinquent over the last year. That means 1 in 11 of our American families are sacrificing. They're not paying the credit card bill because they got to buy something else. Over 8% of auto loans turned delinquent. That's a lot of American families trying to make the car payment but can't afford it because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, this is a person who, when she talks to the media, and she does it like 3 times her entire campaign, but when she dares to talk to the media, she talks about how she's going to tackle the inflation crisis, the affordability crisis. My friends, the affordability crisis is on us because of Kamala Harris's failed leadership. Let's get back to the common sense leadership of Donald J. Trump. Now let's just talk about Kamala Harris's interviews for a little bit, because it's interesting. I think she is the only presidential candidate in American history where every time she opens her mouth, the other side gets about 100,000 votes. So while I criticize Kamala for not doing interviews because I think it's disgraceful to run for the American people when you're asking for their vote, I also admit I'm a little bit biased. Because I want Kamala Harris to do interviews because I think it reveals just how hollow her entire agenda is. I want Kamala Harris to do interviews because every time that she does, I think the American people see through that this is a politician, a career politician running on slogans. Donald Trump and I are running on substance for how to bring the American dream back, and that's a very different kind of campaign.